Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to have a look at the next datamine, which in my opinion is looking like the last one, but maybe we'll have an announcement today saying that the update is coming out, maybe we won't, but the main thing is we are finally in 1.99. After being stuck in the doldrums of 1.98 for a few weeks, it seems like finally we've hit 199, and of course this means that I'm going to change every one of my bloody video titles over the last few weeks, but that's fine. You know, that's a small price to pay for the numerical ideas to keep going when it comes to War Thunder. So let's have a look at the changes. There's a lot of BR changes which are incredibly important, and also some other ones. So first of all, they've changed the early Japanese tank suspension dampening relaxation ratio from 1.0 to 0.4, so that will change how it rides around the place. The 9P157, it gets a different back armor, so from 13 to 43 millimeters. I don't think this will actually change too much, and also it's changed the BMP3 chassis. Because, well, basically both of them have the same chassis, so it makes sense that, you know, they're the same. They still should both get hull broken, they still should both get annihilated by pretty much anything that touches them, even from the back. They've changed the modifier for tank suspension, so the mull suspension resting has been completely removed, and I'm wondering if this is going to be something to do with hydropneumatic suspension, because that still doesn't really work properly in my opinion. So maybe this is a way to try and remove something that was affecting it. And they've made the Charlie 2 door chest modification a tier 3 mod from tier 4. So they've made it a little bit easier to make the Charlie 2 whole again by getting its overall modifications. There are also a few other changes, and as I said, the main ones are the air changes, because they changed a bunch of BRs. So the first one is the F104 AFM. They've changed it, they've reduced its mass by about 300 kilos. And that's basically because they've reduced its fuel mass by about 300 kilos. So it's got a lot less fuel on it, so it'll be more like the shooting star that we all know and love. The F104C, though, they've changed its FM, they've changed its Mach rib speed from 2.3 to 1.95. They've also had its max thrust changed, and it's losing 900 kgf, which is a big amount, you know, that's nearly a fifth of the overall thrust of this vehicle. So this could definitely pertain to how it felt like it was accelerating like a crazy person on the dev server. This is definitely going to reduce that and hit, of course, the American pilots that want to use it. And then also, they've nerfed its overall thrust to altitude, speed, and increased oil temperatures in all thrust modes. So therefore, it's going to be able to have worse performance than it did before on the dev server. So watch out for that when this hits live. I don't think we're going to get another dev server, if I'm honest with you. I think 2 was fair enough. Like, all the other stuff that has been added to the files is just other copy and paste stuff. So obviously it wouldn't really need tweaking from a dev server point of view. It wouldn't need testing. The only thing I can see if they wanted more testing on would be the UHT, the Eurocopter Tiger with the fire and forget missiles, but we'll see if that comes in the update or not. So the reduced F104C maximum water temperature from 750 to 715, and the mass has also been reduced by about 400, and while also decreasing the fuel mass by about 300. So you can see that a lot of the mass is being lost through this fuel, but there is some extra mass also being lost. Now here are the BR changes that are going to be affecting air. Now, as I always say on the dev server, the things that change the most when it comes to the dev server are generally the BRs of vehicles, and also the rewards of vehicles. Basically, any of the numbers around them, when it comes to like repair costs and stuff like that, it's very hard to look at and take them seriously because they normally change just before an update comes out, and this is another one. So the Mirage was 9.0 and now it's 10.3. Now, the Mirage, I didn't play it on the second dev server, but on the first dev server, its flight characteristics were not nice. It didn't feel very, very fast. It didn't feel like it turned too well. It generally felt like a very middling fighter. But the thing is, you've got to remember, on the second dev server, it was given its interceptor loadouts. You know, it has that extra boost from that little engine in the center, and also, it does have those crazy missiles. 30G missiles, you can take 2 of them, and then you have that one large one, which goes roller coastering around to the enemy. So, maybe they're balancing it by its secondary armaments. That's the only thing I can think of. But then again, you know, there are some other vehicles with some very dodgy BRs in the game, which don't really make sense. At least for me, this is based off the first dev server. I don't think this is a 10.3, I think it's maybe a 10.097, but we'll have to see when it actually comes to live, and when it's fully upgraded as well, because that's obviously a big thing. The F-104A and the F-104C, they're going down to 9.7, so both of the American jets are going down to 9.7, and also some of the Chinese, so this makes it easier for them to get off the blocks. I don't think, this doesn't change their rank, so they're still going to be crazy high in RP, and now since we have so many new high-tier jets in the game, I think we're once again going to have a conversation about reducing certain RP costs, because they've effectively just added over 2 million RP just in F-104s when it comes to the game, and that's kind of insane to think about, you know, in War Thunder. And even though I said before, like a few months ago, well, if you look at the statistics, you know, War Thunder's been the easiest to be able to grind through than ever when it comes to top tier. I feel like with this update that might be changing, because it is so top tier focused, and that is just because of all the F-104s added. But it is nice to see them go down to 9.7. The F-104G, J, and S, they're all going up to 10.0, and this makes sense. So it didn't really make a lot of sense that the A and C were higher BR than the G, J, and S. The G is a better performing one than the Americans because it has extra ground strike abilities. The J is also better because it has access to AIM-9Es, where everything else only has access to AIM-9Bs. And the S is the Super Starfighter, so it has better flight characteristics, and it also has access to those ground stuff. So it's nice to see those BRs are finally sorted. It was very weird on the dev server that they were opposite, but, you know, it is how it is. The main thing to understand is that it is fixed now. The F3H2, it's going from 9.0 to 9.3. I feel really sorry for this vehicle. So it kind of reminds me of the Skyhawk when it was added. The F3H2, it was one of the early dev blogs, and to be quite honest with you, I thought it was going to be a really interesting plane. I still think it's going to be a really interesting jet plane, but just like the Italian Navy, it's kind of sad that it's been overtaken by all of these F-104s. I never hear anybody talking about the F3H. I never hear anybody talking about the Italian Navy. Everybody is so focused on the Starfighters, and everybody is so focused on new tanks. So hopefully the F3H will get to see some play, even if it is just a research. So when, let's say, an F14 comes around, which seems to be what a lot of people are interested in, at least it will, you know, get played a little bit. The F3H going up to 9.3 I think is fine. It's got some really nice secondary loadout options, and also it is a little bit slow, but its maneuverability is top class. So I think it'll be fine. I think it will perform really well. The Reggiani 2005 Series 0 is going up to 5.3 from 5.0. Remember, on live right now it's at 6.0. And it's got dropped to 5.0 after the changes that were made to it on the dev server. And so this means that this BR is kind of all over the place, because we don't know how this Reggiani is actually going to react. Obviously before it was very much a spaceship, and it was able to outturn and outspeed and outdo pretty much anything. If you ever used the Reggiani in its prime, it was just a ridiculous vehicle. But right now we're going to just have to see how it is. I'm definitely going to fly it a bit to see what its characteristics have changed and how well it flies in the air. But as long as it's like a big enough nerf, which it looks like it is, then it should be completely fine being at that BR. The B6N1 BR is going down to 1.7, the B6N2 is going up to 2.3, and the 2As is also going up to 2.3. So these ones are always weird to me, right? Because the differences between them. So the B6N2s, they have a better engine than the B6N1s, and then the B6N1, and then the B6N2A has a 13mm instead of a 7.7 or a 7.5, whatever it is on the back. I think it's a 7.7. That is the only differences between these vehicles. They have the same secondary loadouts unless they've been changed, and for me to have them in such difference in BR doesn't really make a lot of sense. I would personally put the B6N2s at 2.0 and leave the B6N1 at 1.7. That's what I would do. I don't think a difference in BR, which is that extreme, is really required. The Scimitar going down to 8.7. Now this is one I definitely didn't see happening. The Scimitar is one of those aircraft in the game, and looking at all of the data mines as well, it looks like it's going to be very fun to fly. Very much like the Swifts. Really good acceleration, really good maneuverability, has insane guns on it, and also has insane access to secondary armaments in the form of either Sidewinders or bullpups. For me, putting it down to 8.7 is basically just saying, hey, do you guys want a G91R3 for the British? We'll give you a G91R3 for the British. That's it. Instead of putting up the G91R3, which I feel like should be needed, instead, now we're just getting one for the British as well. Now, the British don't have as strong an 8.7 or a 9.0 lineup as the Germans, but that Scimitar is definitely as strong in its ground performance as the G91R3. So it's definitely going to do really well in ground realistic, and in air realistic, it's a plane with a lot of acceleration and a lot of maneuverability and insane guns. It can pretty much outlast anything which is on the battlefield because of the amount of ammunition that it holds. So for me, I am unsure about this change, and I'm pretty sure it's going to go up again to at least 9.0, just because it's got such good capabilities of doing stuff when it's spaded. The Su-7B is going from 9.0 to 9.7. I think this is basically just based on its speed. The Su-7B is an incredibly fast aircraft. At the same time, it's one of those which is supposed to be touted for its ground pounding capabilities, and if we're honest, the ground pounding capabilities for it are lacking compared to a lot of other vehicles at a similar BR. And also, 9.7 is a rough BR for a lot of nations in ground forces, so if you're ground pounding in air realistic, yeah, fair enough. You're going to have a lot of scenarios where things aren't going to be able to catch you because you're just going as fast as you can. But in ground realistic, if you're trying to use like those rockets or something, the 9.7 lineup for the Soviets I don't think is very good because you get uptied into that 10.3 bracket a lot, and it's just painful to be able to play. But overall, those are the BR changes for the aircraft. I think most of them are fine. The Reggiani one we're going to have to see, and the B6N2 ones, I think they should be 2.0. Scimitar at 9.0 as well. So yeah, the slight changes I'd personally make, but maybe after we get some player stats in, maybe we'll have some changes. There are also some heli changes. So the H1S early rank, it changed from 5 to 6, so that's going to be better for grinding rank 7s. And also the Japanese UH1B BR is also 8.7. So I'm pretty sure that only gets rockets, the UH1B, in the Japanese tech tree. If it doesn't, though, and gets ATGMs, then it might be a bit spicy. And I think, nope, there are a few other changes for the global changes and additions. So they changed the way explosion affects vehicles once more. They reduced it a lot, basically. If you look at the raw numbers, so bombs won't be catapulting tanks across the map anymore, which is very sad, because that was pretty fun on the dev server. They've changed various radars, so to have check designation type 0. So my guess is that is either a friendly or foe thing, or it's a type of vehicle thing, or size of vehicle thing. And they've also added a new decorator, the Crossout Wheel. Maybe I can bring that up, actually, if that's the case. just to try and show you guys. Hopefully that's for an event coming up. As I've said, Operation Summer should be coming next month or so, and normally in this update, so we got a few things added, which kind of gives us an indicator on what to actually see. Server replay has been disabled for the Xbox platform. Well, that's kind of odd. But Simulator has been unlocked for Xbox. Yes, that is probably the best change that I've seen when it comes to this list. Because for me, one of the biggest issues, and will be going forward, the biggest issues in War Thunder, is how the PC players do not play the same game as the Xbox players, as they don't play the same game as the PS4 players. And as long as we can get to parity on those levels, then for me, that is one of the big issues in the game, which is not necessarily fixed, but at the same time, it just means that we are in a much better position, to actually go forward as an overall community. Instead of just individuals. So we can start collectively asking for stuff instead of having to wait for everyone to get on the same page. So this is the Crossout Wheel. To me it looks like it's the wheel off the Type 93. So it's probably nothing crazy, but it's definitely something to talk about. You can see you've got the Crossout Beep, the Crossout road sign, the Crossout Wheel, and then even the German cross, and also the road sign with no crossing. So yeah, it might be a decoration, it might be just a wheel for something, but it is definitely there. So let's see. Made the point of interest marker available for every player instead of just the devs. Nice. So that means there'll be more squadron work to be able to do in the game, which is nice. Multifunction menu has been unlocked for consoles. Hell yeah. I think the multifunction menu is going to help consoles the most, just because on PC you've got a whole keyboard, right? Whereas if you only have a controller, you have a limited amount of options that you can do through it. So having something which actually gives you access, to what's the word? It gives you access to multiple options and easy to use. It seems like it's much more tailored towards consoles than it is to PC players. So that's nice. They added new items for the inventory, like discounts, a special offer for the 75 USSR SMK, and then the T-34-747 and the M4A5 Ram 2. So you know how you get those discounts? I've been personally getting a lot of 5% discounts for the Dauphine for some reason. It looks like they're adding some more vehicles to that list, so you'll be able to get some more discounts, some more vehicles, and that's good. That's only good for the general player. Anyway, those are the changes for when it comes to this data mine. My guess is this will be one of the last ones, since normally they do the BR changes just before some sort of release or just before some sort of announcement. But the main thing that is cool is we have hit 1.99, which in my opinion is just nice that we keep some normalcy. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Eugene's Terry, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.